Welcome, fellow Dungeon Jedi Masters. I'm still on my anti-Imperial, anti-Sith kick. They're great for storytelling devices, but I feel like Star Wars, both like in home games that we're playing amongst ourselves, but especially in the overall narrative, the books, comics, TV shows, etc. They play too big of a part. So I want to give you some cool things to mix it up. Today, I'm going to give you another tip, kind of resource in your hat to mix it up even further. Last time we went over the big organizations that you can utilize to mix it up in the galaxy, bring something new to the table. Today we're actually going to look at some of the species that you can use as your big bads, quote unquote, for your game. So we're going to look at a couple of my favorites, a couple of the big ones I think can play a cool role or bring something unique to your campaign. And I'm also going to go over how to play them and also some areas you can find inspiration for them, like some of their key stories. So you can read up on them and feel like you can bring them to life when you come to the table. Let's dive into it. So, big bad species of the galaxy. And a lot of these too, I said big bad, but you could definitely bring some moral complexity and ambiguity to a lot of these species too. So don't feel like you're locked in on making them like the evil invaders or the evil uh, Ssi-ruuk or whatever they may be. You could tweak them. You could even change them a bit from their lore if you do want to provide some complexity or kind of keep your characters on their toes and how to handle this new threat. But let's dive in. And as always, too, I've included a couple of honorable mentions that either due to time or just not being my favorite, we didn't have time to go through today. Rat ghouls are what I almost put on there. They're a cool species. Definitely one of the fun ways to bring zombies to Star Wars. But we got something for you a little bit later too, though. I almost put them in, but they're just too similar to another species that I think is a little bit better for tabletop that we've got on there. So rat ghouls are great. Check them out. If you've played KOTOR before or Knights of the Old Republic, you're familiar with them. Recommend checking out the comic book or at least Google or Wikipedia Carnus Moore, Carnus Mirror, Carnus, and you Krness. You'll find it. It is talisman. You could have some fun with that. They're a cool species, especially when you throw the talisman in. It kind of upgrades them a little bit. And I don't. I've talked. Oh, I've talked in a video about that. The lore objects that you can build your campaign around. So check out that video. Check out Wikipedia. Definitely use the Rackle if they fit too. The Yvetha, another cool one. They're from the Black Fleet Crisis. I actually haven't read that one. It's an old Bantam era novel, but they're kind of a cool warlike species that invaded the New Republic. Definitely worth reading. I haven't read that series, so definitely let me know how well you think of it too. But they're kind of a cool one. And gotta have an interesting backstory from what I've read on Wikipedia. Could definitely be worth using. The other one that was on the list, and unfortunately, I remembered a cool one that I had to bump it off. I didn't want to do too many. The Vagrai, I believe it is. They're Zon creation. They're in both canon and Legends. Legends where they're primarily utilized. But if you read Outbound Flight or Survivor's Quest, you're familiar with them. They're a cool conquering species in the unknown regions. And they've got like a really like gnarly way they fight their fleet battle, or kind of how they start to conquer planets. Like they'll kidnap or capture some ships and get some of their people and put like their people in these little blister observation pods on their ships. Like they're visible, you can see the people in there, and they put like these pods are like on the fronts of their ships, and they kind of when they go into like invade the people like to shoot their ships, you have to shoot the observation pods. It's crazy. So it's one of those ones that's just really big. They're one of the cool ones you can use for being from the unknown regions. They're usually conflicting with the Chiss, but if you're playing in the Republic, they could be a great unknown guy that springs on the scene with some gnarly tech. They've got crazy tech too. They incorporate any tech that they find from their conquered planets, and just that brutal way of dealing with conflict that could really bring some fun story moments too, especially if you kidnap some of the PCs people they know and throw them on the observation pad, and the PCs have to find a way to take down the Vagrai without killing their own friends or having to decide if they have to sacrifice their friends to take out the Vagrai. It could be fun for a story. They were number 6 on the list, and I'm like, it's just too many. So check them out. They're definitely worth the read. Another audible mention too is the Grisk Hegemony, another Zon creation, but this time is new canon. They're a fun one too. Same thing, unknown regions, but just a little bit different style. I feel like we're gonna be getting more with them too, as the Ahsoka series maybe, and then maybe as Thrawn kind of gets more developed as time goes on too. So definitely worth reading, especially with the Thrawn trilogies, the new canon Thrawn trilogies, I should say. You can definitely get a little bit more of a feel for them too. Another big ones too, the ones slash Abeloth. They I thought about including them in, but they just didn't kind of fit the feel of the other ones. I wanted these ones to be a little bit more grounded, to some real kind of species slash nations you could throw up against your players. So they're a cool one. They're, if you want to play like a high force campaign, check out the ones. Check out Abeloth in particular. If you wanted to have the ones but weren't sure kind of what to throw as a big bad with them in there, Abeloth is the way to go. Legacy of the Force book series, not the comic series. You could read a little bit more to get more information on her and just kind of the actually not Legacy, Fate of the Jedi for Abeloth. You could read a little bit more to get kind of a feel for her. But let's dive right into it. So I included, so everybody knew this was going to be on here, so shameless self promotion. The Yuuzhan Vong are what I use as my big bad for the invasion campaign. Same thing, I was kind of tired of the same old Force user stuff, same old Imperial type stuff, so I'm like, oh, what would be a cool campaign? Like, what if the Yuuzhan Vong invaded the Old Republic versus the New Republic? So this is kind of the basis for the invasion campaign, but the Vong itself, and I hope you've seen a little bit from. If you haven't seen Invasion, check us out. Every other Tuesday at 6:30. March 1st being our next big session. So check us out 6:30 Eastern Standard Time at Twitch TV backslash Tegan DJM. So check us out there. Crew's been going great. We're on a third session. We're going to wrap up the first arc, hopefully tomorrow, this Tuesday. So this could be a cool way to see a little bit of the Vong in action. They're a fun one to play, even though I do feel a little edgy sometimes. They're an edgy species. They've got that early thousands edge to them, I'll say, but they're cool. The Yuuzhan Vong are from another galaxy. So they're one of the few species that's truly outside of the galaxy, because Star Wars is usually like a self-contained galaxy where they're extra galactic invaders coming into the galaxy through the rift and are looking to take it over and make it theirs. What I like about the Vong are they're a brutal warrior-esque species. They are dedicated to war. They believe an honorable death is the best reward for life. They revere death more than life, but they strive to get that glorious death that brings honor to their family and to their own name after they're gone. The religious zealots, they've got their own pantheon of gods, and they go all out to honor and sacrifice for them. They're masochists. They love pain. They believe pain brings them closer to the gods. And one of the cool things, too, I should have put that in the description, especially if you've got some Force users, they are absent from the Force. There's some cool lore on that. I won't spoil it because that came to be. But they can't be felt through the Force. They're kind of felt like a nothingness through the Force, which can give a little bit of pause to the Jedi, Sith, or any of those Force users you may have in your campaign, or even just in the galaxy at large, because nothing's usually absent from the Force. Even droids, rocks, all of those have some type of Force presence that they can come across. So they're just kind of a unique enemy, and due to their lack of Force presence and just martial tradition, they're one of the few species that can scrap with Jedi and Sith on fairly evenish terms. So that's another cool piece you can throw in there and keep your Jedi and Sith players on edge a little bit too. But I've been enjoying it. They also they hate technology. They use biological organisms that they develop and design that acts as their tech. So their ships are living, their armor's living, their amphistaffs, like these little snake-like staffs that could be like a whip or staff or a spear. They're living too. So they're just really an interesting species, conquerors, brutal warriors with religious devotion. And then I see too is like they're ones that you can kind of peel back the layers and a little spoilers, not spoilers, but direction I'm going in for Invasion 2, because they've got a whole caste system, religious system, as well as just they've got real depth behind them. But the way I recommend if you're bringing them to your table, start them off brutal, start them off horrific. Like those first, especially if you start your players at a little bit earlier levels. I'm trying to do a little bit with this, but 5e, Star Wars 5e included, it's a little harder to do the horror styles, but I'm trying to give a little bit of feel for that for Invasion. So check it out and let me know how I'm doing on that side too, because that's something I'm trying to bring in, but it's a little difficult for 5e. But give it a horror ass feel. Start them at like level 3, even level 1 could be good. And just really show their brutality and unrelenting drive to conquer the galaxy, their lack of care for their own life, and just really that they'll do anything to serve their gods and bring them the galaxy that's been promised. So, one of my favorites. Shout out to for Josh Fetzer. I'll put his Instagram in there. He's the one that designed my campaign art there. You'll see that it's dope. So check him out too. But yeah, Vong, and I had to give myself a little shameless self promotion there too. So check out Invasion if you haven't. I'll put a link to the videos, the YouTube ones that are already up there in the video, as well as my Twitch. Come join us next Tuesday and see if they may be a good fit for your species or your campaign too. And on that note, too, another shameless self-promotion, but this is one for Dungeon Jedi Masters. We are doing with our annual campaign, we do that for the last couple years. It's mirroring my Invasion campaign. So if you do find that you like the Vong and say, hey, this is something I want to bring, if you're a Dungeon Jedi Master Patreon, go right on Patreon and download. We've got that first session out there. In the first session, I'm still going through the first no, I shouldn't say first session, the first adventure. I'm still going through the first adventure with my campaign. So that's been, this will be our third session Tuesday. So that's 9 hours out of one adventure. I put like 5 to 6 on my, on the description there, but playing through it, it's a little bit longer. So you can definitely get your money's worth too. So if you're not a Dungeon Jedi Master Patreon and want to check out the Vong, come subscribe, support us, which helps us bring more cool content like this out. And get your Vong on. And I have to say, there's, you'll see at the end of the block, the big bad, I am very proud of his block. It's a fun monster one. You'll have your players on their toes, even though it's pretty low CR. So check it out and let me know what you think. But let's move on. Oh, actually, before we do that too, Stories for Inspiration, New Jedi Order series. I'm rereading it now. I was looking to see if I had my book on my desk. I've been rereading it during breaks at work and just when I get time. Great series, long series. I think it's 16 books. It's a lot in there. So there's some lows, Balance Point, Dark Journey, but there are fantastic highs. Vector Prime, Star by Star, Traitor, like, if you want to get a cool philosophical force outlook, read all of the New Jedi Order just to get to Traitor. One of the best books. Stover kills it. I'm rereading it right now. I'm on book 4. So it is a time commitment, but it's highly worth it, and you'll love it. So if you do read it, join the Discord, throw a comment up here, and let me know what you're thinking of it. All right, so we're mixing up a little bit. So we did the Yuuzhan Vong. I knew people would think I was like, I even put in a comment, somebody posted on the other organizations that the Vong were coming, so I wanted to get them out of the way. But let's start at the beginning for some cool ones you can bring in. The Rakatans are great for that. They're ancient species that were rulers of the galaxy, had their own empire, the Infinite Empire that spanned the galaxy. One of the cool things with them too is they were a species of powerful force users. They integrated the force into their tech, and this is kind of what caused their downfall too, because eventually they either through the will of the force or biological degradation. They had a number of different theories for it. They started to lose their connection to the Force. And their whole technology, the way they were able to span the galaxy and rule over it, was by using this Force-based tech. And after the while, since they couldn't use the Force, they couldn't make use of their tech, and the species they were ruling over pushed them off, like the Sith species. And that's, I should have put those on there too. The Sith as a species are worth using too. Not like the overall Sith, but like check those out. They're another honorable mention now. But the Sith species pushed them off the planet. The Hutts did as well. Just really, once they lost their tech, they lost their edge. But they went back to their home world and started kind of slowly degrading and quickly degrading after they went back and completely lost their tech. But the reason I mention them is not so you can have like the sad techless version, but they're a big galactic empire. There's so many stories you could find where you could have some splinter cell come back online and start to wreak havoc in the galaxy. Like let's say one of them started to see what was coming, a general, and he's like, "We'll go to the moon of XYZ." I'm blanking on a good name of a moon that's in the outer rim. Put our people in cryogenic sleep, come back out with our fleet, and then we'll reclaim the glory of the Rakata. You could do that. Like, there's so many different ways you could do it. The nice thing too is have the PCs stumble across them. Have the PCs kind of like, especially if they're archaeologists or hired to do a job, have them be the reason the Rakatan general and his fleet or whatever you decide to do with it wake back up and start to make their presence known in the galaxy because the cons, they've got crazy force tech, they've got crazy force powers too. They could be a fun species that you could kind of have come out of nowhere and start to throw chaos in the galaxy. So check them out. They're definitely one I recommend. And if you want some inspiration for stories, play KOTOR 1, Knights of the Old Republic 1. Anyway, if you like Star Wars, play KOTOR. It's out for the Switch. I've rebought it. I'm on Manan right now. I need to go back and finish Manan. I don't like that planet, but overall, it's a fantastic game. And you get a lot of backstory on their Cottons and kind of what happened to them and what they overall thought and liked. This is another cool one. This is actually what bumped the Bagrai off the list because I almost forgot about them. And like they are, I didn't like their story that they were initially in, but they are a great D&D tabletop species, the Killiks. They're insect hive mind. The initiative's from Alderaan, but I think it was an asteroid or something hit them and they got pushed to the Alderaan. And I think something with the Celestials too. I'm blanking on exactly what happened, but or actually, I say the unknown regions past the Outer Rim. That's where they've been in residence since pretty much the Old Republic. The Old Republic game had them in there a little bit too, but most of Star Wars history, they're out in the unknown regions. But they are a cool species for D&D because you can do some crazy stuff with them and just have some fun with it. So the Killiks, they're insect species. They're hive mind as long as they're within a certain radius of each other. And I built some stat blocks too on Fitzo's Codex if you want to use these guys on there. But if they're within a certain radius, they can kind of transmit their thoughts and all of that to the hive. So what one of them knows, they all know. What one of them sees, they all see. And they can kind of use that to great effect during war, and especially they're an insect hive species, so they don't place as much emphasis on individual life as many other species do, because it's all for the glory of the hive. So that's cool. That's kind of basic there, though. That's a lot of like hive species. That's nothing too crazy. The cool part, where I think you can have some fun with it as a D&D campaign, is that they are, I should say, Star Wars 5e campaign, is that they are able to indoctrinate people. And I forgot the technical term they have for it. But if you're around the Killiks for too long, because they exude like these pheromones and things like that that allow the hive to connect each other, you'll start to be connected into their hive. And you'll start to be able to hear the hive voice, and they'll start to hear your thoughts. And you'll start to kind of slowly begin to dedicate yourself to the will of the hive. Which is a cool thing to do for a Star Wars campaign, because you could have the Killiks coming in and indoctrinating people and adding them to their hive, and just slowly expanding their empire and beginning to conquer. The nice thing too is the Killiks don't realize this is bad. They think everybody should want to be a part of the hive. They think they're doing something that's good for the people. So it's another one that you could have there too. They're not like technically bad guys. They're just like a lot of times, like in the Dark Nest trilogy, as I said, it's not my favorite, but they were expanding because, well, twofold. On one part, they're expanding because they need resources. The other part, which we're going to kind of loop into another cool thing that you could use in the Star Wars 5e campaign, is that they were kind of not conquered. They assimilated three powerful force users into their midst. And those force users were able to take over different hives. The crazy thing with this is that they got a little bit of a boost or an amp by being connected to the hives. Since they were able to connect themselves to well, I forgot how they explain, like, the latent force potential of the hive. That force user was able to call upon that and amp themselves up to levels that were uh, pretty far above what a normal force user could do. So this is a cool one you could use to either kind of mirroring that Darkness trilogy, or even have like a crazy Force user, or maybe a Sith finds these Killiks. Maybe he's injured, or maybe he's just looking for a way to get powered, and he finds the Killiks, takes them over, and makes them into an unstoppable, conquering force. You could have some cool fun with that, and especially too with the hive mind, when one of them knows they all know their players are going to hate that, and they're gonna have some fun with that. So you could do that, especially like investigation missions, if they're trying to stealth in someplace. If one of them sees them, they all see them. So without getting some cool fancy tech to jam them up. So check them out. I like the Killiks. I built stat blocks for them and fits those. I used them in an old campaign a couple years back too. But they're a cool one. You should be able to have some good times. Also, stories for inspiration. The story they got introduced in, I believe, the stories they played the biggest part in was the Darkness trilogy. Right after New Jedi Order, it's worth reading. Definitely worth reading, but it's not my favorite. But gives some really cool information on the Killiks and some great ideas to spawn a Star Wars 5e campaign. This is another cool one. This is what bumped the Rackles from the list. This I couldn't find a good official art piece for them. And I didn't want to steal anybody else's art. I don't know how that works with YouTube rules. I don't want to be I don't want to be mean too. So just use the Dungeon Jedi Masters logo. You can find some art for them though if you Google them. And they've got let me try. And I know somebody's like, you mispronounce this, but the Mongol, Mingle. What do you Mongol? Because it sounds cooler to me. Mongol. So they are another hive mind, but they are a parasite. Kind of think the Flood. They're the Star Wars Flood, pretty much, but they do a little bit different. So they're a sentient hive mind parasite, and they conquer through stealing people's bodies. So similar to the Flood on that side. They're contained in the unknown regions, and they're a great one if you want to have a horror style game, and especially because they spread so quickly and easily that they could just really come in and overwhelm the unknown regions and start to spread closer and closer to the core, and really give your players just kind of like, or even if you want to have like a more self-contained story on a planet where the players get trapped there somehow and they have to survive the advances in the Mongol. They're just, it's one of those ones that with Parasite you can have some fun. And if you need some like, if I don't know if you're Halo fans, I assume some of you are, being sci-fi fans and Star Wars fans, use some inspiration from the Flood on just different things they can do. There's not too much written about the Mongol, which could be good or bad. I like it because you can go through and make them more of what you want them to be. But I know some people like to have kind of a little bit of a baseline for it. So the Flood could be a great baseline. They're fairly similar, except the Mungu Mongol, if they're not inside of a species, is more of like a shape-shifting ooze. When I say shape-shifting, they're not like they can take people's forms, or they can't like look like somebody else, but they can take on different forms. So definitely cool, different feel from the usual Imperials and kind of the usual mythological Star Wars, high techy. These are going to be just a real straight horror element that you can throw in there and just give your players something new. So check them out and let me know what you think on them too. They're a bit obscure-ish. They've only been in the Unknown Regions game and Wikipedia. I didn't play the game. I found out about them a couple years back by somebody mentioning them, and I looked at a Wikipedia dive, and I'm like, these guys are cool. So hopefully you guys get to check them out and find some cool uses for them in your campaign too. All right, save the best for last. I didn't put too much on there, but this is a cool species you could use to have your players go, what the griff? Like, they are an alien dinosaur. Check. You got an alien dinosaur. Like, look at that guy. He's like a little T-Rex type guy. Alien, they're sentient. So, alien dinosaur, check. They can steal people's life forces. Check. Through a process called entrenchment, which we'll get into. So that's crazy enough. Alien dinosaur can steal people's life forces. They could use said life force to power their ships and make crazy killer droids. Check. Uh, and just all that, they got a cool name. Ssi-ruuk. These are a fun one. This is I was one of those ones I was thinking about cool species. I'm like, how have I not made a game for this? You may use these guys in a game. These would be a fun one to make a campaign off of. And if I've actually got some ideas for, I won't spoil it. I've got some ideas for my campaign now of how they could play into it too. But they're great. They are another one from the unknown regions. They came and invaded the kind of still rebellion era republic. It's Truce at Bakura, which takes place literally right after Endor, like literally like the day after Endor. So I don't want to spoil it. Read the Truce of Bakura, I believe. Really cool, but these ones are just fun because it's a sentient dinosaurs. They're also cool piece with them too. They've got a slave species called the Pwywek. It's weird spelling. I've never heard these words out loud, so forgive me. So they're because the Ssi-ruuk, why they use the droids, why they use the slave species, is they're afraid to die off planet. They think if they die off of a planet that has not been consecrated by their priest. So if they die somewhere that their priest haven't consecrated and made a holy site, they think their soul will be lost forever or adrift. So that's a cool feature there. But they also are able to, through a process called entrenchment, take people's life forces and put it into their ships or put it into their droids and use it for fuel. So that's crazy. You've got T-Rexes who could go in and steal people's life forces and turn them into a droid. And the nice thing too, and spoilers. So spoiler alert. You could still force users could still feel some of that force presence within the droids, within the ships, and all of that too. So they're not completely gone. And I won't go into too much more because it's super spoilers there. And I want you to read Truce of Bakura. But that's another fun thing that you can do with them. So these are like really one of the ones if you want to turn up to Criff at 11. Ssi-ruuk, your players won't see them coming. Like, I think Truce of Bakura is the only major story they play along Ryan in. They get some mentions in New Jedi Order and a couple other books too. But this is like their big story, and you could really kind of go wild with them too. So they're crazy science. The entrenchment process is terrifying, and you could show some cool effects with that to the players. Like these are ones that I really was kicking myself. I've never used them because they're a dream to bring to Star Wars to 5e. So they've actually got the species made too. If you want to have a player that's from them, but these are the best one. Actually, I think the Vong are still the overall best one out of this list, but these are the ones that you can kind of go in and be like, this is crazy. Like just throw in like dinosaurs with the droids that run off people's life force, and like, you will have your players going like, what the hell's going on? This is awesome. So check it out. Check out the Wikipedia page. Read Truce of Bakura. It's a pretty short book. Good book too. So it's in the Bantam area. I like it. This is what I wholeheartedly endorse. It's not like Dark Nest, but it is a Bantam era book, and the Bantam era books can be a little, I won't say hit or miss, but a little weird sometimes too. And this is kind of a cool weird for me on that one. So highly recommend it. Have some fun. But yeah, so those are the core species on that side I wanted to touch on. There's 5 good ones that you could go through and tweak or see if they can fit your campaign or just give you some inspiration. Because I don't know if you are, but I'm tired of the Imperials and Sith. So these are some cool ones you could use that are not directly Imperials, not directly Sith. And if you wanted to throw some cool Force users in them, definitely go so. Like the Killiks, like throw a Force user in them. Whether it even be a Killik that somehow gains the Force or something else on that side, like go for it. Like, but it's just nice to break away from that traditional Imperial Sith dynamic that Star Wars has, and just find some cool species you can use and throw something unusual at your players. So great on that side. Overall, want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for supporting Dungeon Jedi Masters podcast. I'm not gonna spoil it, but we've got like our best podcast this Tuesday, so we'll have some promos up by then. But check it out. We've got something really sweet for you, so check it out. If you're a Patreon, stay tuned to the Patreon. We've got some cool news dropping there, and also too for the Patreons, if you're a master tier, you've already gotten a look at this, but if you're a knight tier, Todd actually did a great factions walkthrough, going through how to generate and utilize factions with your campaign. So these could be a great way to even fill out some of these species if you wanted to have them in your campaign. Check out Todd's faction document, see how well you can whip up, and see how you can tweak them to fit these guys. But overall, seriously, thank you all for the support. We truly appreciate it. We're getting close to 2,000 YouTube subscribers. We're doing a giveaway when we do that. So subscribe if you haven't. Like, follow us on Twitter, Instagram. Follow Todd and I's individual streams, Twitch, where we have live stream games for Star Wars 5e. I'll throw those in the description. But truly, just thank you. You guys have been amazing. We love the support that you guys have brought us to. But overall, may the force be with you, and have some fun with these species.